What's going on, everybody? The big old bicentennial 200 for here on the Southside Beat. Thank you so much for joining. My name is Chris Halicke. Alongside me is Greg Macafee here on the Southside Beat. So stoked for 200 episodes, guys. Thank you so much, Greg. It's your second episode.
Number two.
I know it's been a long journey for you, but no, like it's awesome to have you on here. And yeah, Chris, here saying 200 episodes, what a ride it has been. It's been a lot of fun, and trust me, man. Like once training camp gets going and the season gets going, it's only gonna get better.
Oh yeah, for sure.
So, Greg, we gotta initiate you here on the Steelers beat. So it's funny because we had a comment yesterday, somebody saying like, why hire like a Bills fan to cover the Steelers? And it's like, well, first off, journalism is not in the business of hiring fans.
Nope.
To cover teams. You want? I can give a reason, but I think you've been an editor in chief before, so how about you give a good reason why we don't hire fans to be journalists?
Yeah, I mean, you got to be able to. You got to be unbiased. Is the big thing. You got to be able to do the negatives and the positives of the job, and it's just a part of it.
Yeah. So, but I also know, like, okay, like certain fanhoods, I know that if I say something like Music City Miracle, it's going to get a reaction out of you. Or if I say, man, I feel like I've failed 4 years in a row.
Yeah.
But that's like the extent of my Bills trivia when it comes to that kind of stuff. But Steelers trivia for you, Greg. Okay, we're gonna do this. We're gonna. I put this together in a way where the questions start off pretty easy. Okay, we're gonna give you a couple snowballs, softballs up front, but then we'll get into a little bit more depth, a little bit stuff that. And by the way, fans, or like people in the chat, by all means, throw your answers in there too, because maybe you can help Greg out in case he doesn't know. And Randy says a good thing.
I might need some help.
That's true. Try to help him out in case he gets stuck. But Randy says never downtime for Steelers talk because they have history. And I do have a bit of history in here too. It's hard to put things into 10 questions. I didn't want to get too crazy. All right. First question. What year was the Steelers franchise founded?
1933.
Bada bing, bada boom.
Just celebrate.
1 for 1 so far. bonus question. What was the original name of the franchise from 1933 to 1939? Bonus question. It just doesn't really count.
That is something I do not know.
Okay, I'll give you a big, really easy hint. It was named after the local baseball club.
Nope.
The Pittsburgh Baseball Club.
The Pirates?
Yes. Yes. The Pittsburgh Pirates. They were the Pittsburgh Pirates from 1933 to 1939. They were the Pittsburgh Pirates. And then in 1940, they became the Steelers. And then we'll get into a little bit of we'll go back here in a little bit when it comes to other history. All right. But here's another softball one for you. How many Super Bowls have the Steelers won? And to throw a little thing in there, what seasons did they win them in?
All right. So I feel like we've been hearing Stairway to 7, right, for a couple of years now.
All right.
So we're sitting at 6.
Okay. Now what seasons? Not when the Super Bowl was played, but the season in which they won it.
All right. So 08.
Yes.
05.
Recent. Yep.
And then I think it was 74, 75.
Yep.
78 and 79.
Ding, ding, ding. All right. I need a bell like the Ramon show has. I need a bell. Okay. So we're 2 for 2 so far. The original name of the franchise was a bonus question. That was just extra points at the end in case you get a question wrong. All right. Here's another one, especially since you were a vendor at the stadium. You better know the answer to this question. What song is played during the fourth quarter of every home game prior to a crucial defensive series?
Renegade.
By who sings it? You know the song. I'll give it.
I know the song. Oh, geez. Is it? It's AC/DC.
No, it's not ACDC.
No,
thank God. Older than ACDC.
I don't know. I can't remember. Styx.
What?
Thanks, Cody.
There you go. There you go. Styx. There we go. Yeah, great. Cody helping out. Yep, Styx. It is Styx. Yep. Fun fact, by the way, that song "Renegade" by Styx is also in Billy Madison, the Adam Sandler comedy from the 90s.
Great movie.
The fact that I have to almost preface that makes me feel so old because I grew up like with okay.
Great
okay.
Movie.
We're kind of getting out of the softball questions into pretty well-known history, but if you didn't grow up knowing the franchise, you might not know. So we'll see.
Okay. All right.
50 years ago, the Steelers had the greatest draft class of all time, drafting 4 players and signing 1 undrafted free agent that all made the Hall of Fame.
Oof.
Name those 5 players.
Oh God, I had this earlier. Lynn Swann.
Yes.
Lambert.
Yep.
Is Jack Ham one of them?
No. Jack Ham's not one. Another 2 more offensive players and 1 more defensive player. The undrafted free agents not as easy to get. William says Blunt. No, Mel Blunt is not one of them.
He was a couple years before that.
Cody's got one for you.
I'm struggling.
Cody's got one for you. Mike Webster. Yeah.
And then there was one in like the 4th or 5th round, I think.
It was the 4th round pick.
4th round pick.
The other offensive player.
Jeez, why am I struggling now?
Jane's got this one for you.
Stallworth?
Stallworth. John Stallworth. John Stallworth. No, Green is not it. Joe Green was in the 60s. And then your undrafted for anybody want to say the undrafted free agent for me in the chat. I know it. I know the answer, but and Mark's got it here. Donnie Shell was he was a safety. That was the undrafted free agent. So that draft went. They didn't have a 3rd round pick, so that draft went Lynn Swann, then Jack Lambert in the 2nd round.
Yep.
No 3rd round pick. Then 4th round pick was John Stallworth. 5th round pick was Mike Webster.
I was going back through the drafts like earlier this morning, and I didn't realize how many Hall of Famers they hit on in those years. Like it was crazy. And
74, nobody's going to match that. Not unless you can get 4 Hall of Famers in the class. Yeah, it's just it's unmatched.
That's crazy.
It's unmatched. And I mean, while Franco Harris was by far like the guy who I'd say drafting Mean Joe Green was the first part, and then Franco's immaculate reception was also the kind of the Kickstarter to the beginning of the dynasty, because yes, they didn't win in 72 or 73, but 72 they showed everybody they could do it, and they only lost to the only undefeated team in NFL history in the AFC Championship the next year or the next week. And so but still that 74 draft just put them over the top. That just gave them everything. All right. Okay. Despite having a long list of Hall of Famers in the franchise's history, the Steelers have only officially retired 3 numbers. Which 3 players have had their numbers officially retired?
Franco Harris.
Yep, those most recent.
Mean Joe Green.
Yep.
And then
the third one's gonna be tricky if you're not familiar with Steelers history, because it's not from.
It's in my head. It's an offensive lineman.
Number 70. That's the hint I'm going to give. Number 70.
I can't remember his name.
Ernie Stoutner.
All right.
Yeah. So not from the like 70s dynasties and stuff like that, but still like he's there. So lots of numbers that have not been given out. They don't give out Terry Bradshaw's 12. They haven't given out Jerome Bettis' 36 or Ben Roethlisberger's 7 or Troy Polamalu's 43. But they're not officially retired. So certain numbers that they set aside, they don't do that with any of the receivers' numbers. Plenty of receivers and tight ends have worn 88 and 86 and 83 and 82 and all these other. Yeah, now that I think about it, man, I don't think anybody. Cody says that. I don't think anybody's 86. Worn 86 since Hines retired. Now that I think about it, now J Mood says Anderson's one. I don't think that's not for Gary Anderson. That's for the Chief. That's for Art Rooney Sr.
Yeah.
That's not given out because so. It's not for Gary Anderson. Who this isn't a trivia question, but fun fact: Gary Anderson is the all-time leading scorer in Steelers history. All right. Let's go to the next one. We'll start getting a little harder here. We're got a couple stat-based ones.
All right.
Who are the top 5 rushing leaders in Steelers history? You don't have to give the exact order. Just give me if you get one of the name. If one of these names, there's no way you could get it.
well, I know Franco's up there. Franco's number 1
in terms of Steelers history. He's the all-time leader.
Yeah,
Steelers history.
Yeah, Jerome Bettis has got to be on that list, right?
Mm-hmm. Yep, he's second in team history, and then when you combine what he got with the Rams, he has more than Franco.
Yeah. Is Willie Parker up there?
Willie Parker, he is actually 3rd on the list.
Is Rashad Mendenhall up there?
No,
he wasn't here long enough. I'll throw Lev Bell out there. Just
Le'Veon Bell is number 4.
Okay. Yep. And then the 5th one you said I'm not going to get.
Dude, I didn't even know this. Can
I get a clue? Where did he go to college or what years?
Oh man, what year? Hold on. Let me pull up his Pro Football Reference page real quick. I started saying his name. He played from 1954 through 1966.
Yeah. Not a shot. No way.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. He went to St. Mary's and Arizona State.
Oh, okay. Yeah. There's no shot.
No. John Henry Johnson.
Okay.
John Henry Johnson. Yeah. No, I didn't even know that. But fun fact here, in terms of active Steelers running backs, Najee Harris is only 1,113 yards from being in the top 5, from passing John Henry Johnson.
Oh.
Already.
Wow. He could do that this year with a big year.
He could. Man. He's had 1,000-yard season in his first 3 seasons.
Exactly.
1,113 yards away. He could absolutely be top 5 before the end of the season.
That's doable.
Very doable. All right. So there's your top 5. Now, other running question. Which Steelers running back holds the record for the most rushing yards in one single season? For those of you who have watched the show, one of my favorite players growing up.
Is it Willie? Is it Willie Parker?
Nope, not Willie.
My only other guess would be Bettis. I'm not sure.
Bettis is a close second. Second. Mr. CJ Jr.'s got you.
Okay.
Barry Foster.
All right.
Barry Foster, 1992. He was right there up with, I think, now I can't remember. Let me go Pro Football Reference real quick. 1992 season. I cannot remember if he, I don't think he beat out Emmitt Smith. Did he beat out Emmitt Smith? I can't remember. Somebody help me out here in the history. Barry Foster, man. He's actually a principal of a high school here in the DFW area right now. And it was crazy, man. He was a beast. He was a beast back in the 90s, but he only did it for a few years. Steelers were 4th in the league in rushing that year.
Oh, wow.
Let me see if I can get to player stats. Hold on one second. Come on, man. I'm running on a 10-year-old Mac here. All right, here we go. Standard rushing 1992 season. Let's go. Come on. Barry Foster. No, he did not beat out Emmitt Smith. Emmitt Smith had 1,713. Barry Foster had 1,690. So it was right there up with Emmitt Smith. Right at the height of the Cowboys dynasty. All righty. So that one was one of those tricky ones.
That's a tough one. That's a tough one.
Yeah. So, like I said, a lot of people don't like. A lot of people remember Barry Foster for those of us who watched the Steelers in the 90s. But man, it was like 92, 93, but I think even like 93, he his season was cut short due to an ankle injury, and then 94, he split time with Bam Morris. And then whenever the NFL expanded it ahead of the 95 season, they traded him. And, it's just, but that 3-year run, I remember Barry Foster, man. He was one of my favorites. Okay. Randy's got a good question for you. Who was the only Steelers running back to eat 2 chipped ham sandwiches and drink a pop before hitting the hole?
He was patient, man. He was patient.
Yeah. When we've talked about like running the football and talking about like how, Najee Harris or Jalen Warren can fit into this offense, it's always been about like, okay, Najee, he's got that patience, but Jalen has that ability to literally just put a foot in the ground and go.
Yeah.
And Lev had that ability to kind of do both. He had the patience.
Yeah.
And then he also had the ability to just put a foot in the ground and just go one direction and turn on a dime.
Yeah.
Okay. We're going to go back to that history.
Okay.
Real quick. This one was going to be hard for if you don't know Steelers history. Okay. The Steelers were previously known as the Pirates. After playing 3 seasons under the Steelers name, the franchise played back-to-back seasons under 2 other names before switching to the Steelers permanently in 1945. What were those other 2 names? And I'll give you a hint. So they had to combine with 2 other franchises in each of those seasons, because that was like during World War II and they didn't have enough players. So they had to combine.
Well, one of them was said in here earlier was the Steagles.
Yep. That was 1943. The Phil Pitt Steagles.
And then I don't.
The other one was couldn't even come up with a name for the other one.
I have no clue, to be honest with you. I mean,
it was Card Pit. It was the combination of the Cardinals and Pittsburgh. So
wow,
Card Pit. So the Steagles in 1943, and then Card Pit in 1944, and then since 1945, it's just been the Steelers.
Okay.
So there's a nice little piece of Steelers history for you. Yeah. I totally just deleted that entire trivia thing.
Command Z.
I don't know how I did it, but I just deleted it out of my notes.
Is it in your trash folder?
Oh no, I got it. I thought I deleted it. I did not. Okay. All right, here we go. I got 2 more questions for you.
All right.
Mr. CJ Jr.'s got a bonus one here. What kicker beat up a towel dispenser at Sheetz? I know the answer to this question.
Is that recent?
This century. I want to say 2000s. If it's the kicker I'm thinking of, I want to say the 2000s.
Jeff Reed?
Yeah, I think so. That's my answer. Mr. CJ Jr.'s got to help me out there. I'm pretty sure it's Jeff Reed. Yeah. Okay.
He would be the one that would come to mind for me.
yeah. I was gonna say, like, I thought I heard about that story. Obviously, I wasn't living there during that time, but yeah, I at least heard about that.
That's a good one.
Mark says didn't know about Card Pit.
I've never heard that. I've heard the Steagles before at time, but I've never heard of Card Pit. That's wild.
Yeah, it was back-to-back seasons. Just teams needed players because there were so many guys who were obviously going and serving for World War II, and so it was the Steagles in 43, and then Card Pit in 44, and then obviously World War II came to an end, and 45 on it was the Steelers. So, okay. From 1933 to 19. Oh, no, wait. Sorry. That's the last one. Sorry. Okay. Got 2 more questions. Name the 4 receivers in franchise history that have had seasons in which they caught at least 100 passes and at least 1,000 yards. 4 receivers in Steelers history have accomplished that. 100 catches and 1,000 yards in the same season.
All right. Well, AB's got to be one of them.
Yeah. And he is the only one who did it multiple times. And not only did it multiple times, did it 6 times.
Oh, wow.
6 times. There are 9 total seasons in which the Steelers have had, or 9 performances in which it's been 100 catches and 1,000 yards, and Antonio Brown's had 3 of them. Or sorry, 6 of them. 3 other ones.
How Tynes Ward.
Yes, he's one. Okay, 2 more. Recent.
Mike Wallace.
No. He was never a high volume catch guy.
Antoine Randall L.
No, definitely not.
Oh,
more recent than Randall L. And think of Antonio Brown era, and then also think very, very recent.
I was gonna say Lev. I mean,
no, Lev's not up there. I mean, caught a lot of passes, but not enough to have 100 catches or 1,000 yards.
Was it Juju up there?
Juju is one.
Juju.
And then the other one is very, very recent. More recent than any of them. The most recent one.
Oh, George Pickens.
Nope.
No.
1,000 yards, but not 100 catches.
Why is this slipping my mind? Outside of, was it Deontay Johnson?
Deontay Johnson. That's it.
Wow, that's kind of surprising to me.
Did it in 2021. Ben's last year. Yep.
Right,
only 4 receivers in Steelers history have done that. That is honestly one of the reasons why I've kept trying to tell people, like, listen, Deontay can do this thing if he has at least average quarterback play. I would say Ben in his last year was probably average, right? Like, and that's I'm like, this dude can catch high volume stuff. And it's funny, whenever I was looking that up, I also looked at catch percentages of those seasons, because a lot of people would be like, yeah, but how many catches did he drop? Well, in terms of catch percentage, he wasn't even the lowest number in terms of catch percentage. I think Antonio Brown had 2 different seasons in which his catch percentage was worse than Deontay's. So, and that's Antonio Brown, who was not known to drop a lot of passes.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah. All right. Final question. Done pretty good so far. Done better than I expected. Especially with these harder ones. Okay. From 1933 to 1971, the Steelers won just 1 division title.
Mm-hmm.
But since 1972, the Steelers have been arguably the most successful franchise in the NFL. How many losing seasons have the Steelers had total since 1972?
Losing seasons?
Total. And we're just talking about below 500 in the regular season.
Well, they
not at 500, but below.
They haven't had a losing season since Tomlin took over. So,
right. The last one, I'll give it like the biggest hint I could give. The last one that they had was the season before they drafted Ben, which was 03.
I would say it's got to be like less than 5 or less.
It's a little more than 5.
Okay.
A little. 7? It's not, but 7 on the dot. 7 losing seasons since 1972. That one was kind of like, I was just going through. I'm like, okay, what can I kind of do? Because it's like when you look at Steelers history, it really is like 33 to 71 is just one, and then 72 on it's just 2 completely different teams.
Yeah, no, 100%.
Like 72 was everything just completely flipped, and this team all of a sudden became the class of the NFL.
It was like once they got like that string of like Mean Joe Green, Terry Bradshaw, and then that 74 class. Like after that, it was just completely different.
Like there have been decades like since like the 80s is probably the worst when you're talking about like what they accomplished.
Yeah.
The 2010s probably would be kind of up there, but at least in the 2010s decade, the teens decade, they at least started off the decade with a Super Bowl appearance, right? Yeah. And at least went to at least one other AFC championship. They went to one AFC championship in the 80s, and then that was it. They weren't terrible. The worst record they had in the 80s was 6-10, and they did it once. 7-9. A lot of mediocrity. Oh no, wait, 5-11 in 88. They were 5-11 in 88. That was pretty bad. Yeah, but that was like getting near the end of Noel's tenure, and then when Cowher took over, outside of the back-to-back losing seasons in 98 and 99, it was pretty smooth sailing, and then obviously 03, it was a losing season that ended up being very, very worth it.
Yeah, for sure.
So. Okay, so I'm going to throw this to the chat here. I want the chat to test our Steelers knowledge, our combined Steelers knowledge. If you guys can throw us some questions. That's Biet has a really good question here. When was the last time the Steelers finished last in the division?
In their division.
If I had to guess, I would probably say it was that 5-11 season in '88. If I had to guess, because since then, man, I
can't remember a year where the other three teams were. The Browns were so bad they've been so bad for so long.
Well, and then when you get prior to 2002, the division was larger because it was the AFC Central.
Yeah,
and that's Biet says you're right. So it was okay. So it was '88. It was that 5-11 season, because they were 6-10 in both '99 and 2003, but I don't think they finished last place, especially 6-10 in '99 when the division was 6 teams. I don't think that would have been bad enough to be last place in a 6-team division. But I think even 03, 6-10 was just because the Browns were so bad then. Kind of curious where they fit. I can pull that up real quick. They were third in the division that year, 2003. Let me see. Is there? I can't find. No, they don't have the actual standings here. It just takes me to the team 2003. Okay. Let's see. So how do you feel? Like you feel a little bit better about your Steelers history now? A little bit.
Yeah. I felt good coming into this, and then it's like when you get ready to take a test and everything just leaves your head. Like they were like the three jersey numbers, they were all things I studied, like all that stuff.
Yeah.
And just
Mr. CJ Jr. has a good question here because I don't know the answer to this one. Number 1 draft pick who never saw the field because of a car accident.
For the Steelers?
Yeah, I would assume. I don't know this.
I thought Bradshaw was the only number 1 pick, and
I don't know if he's like meaning like first overall draft. Maybe he's just meaning first round pick. I don't know.
Ooh, I'm not sure.
He says Gabe Rivera. Interesting. I didn't know that. I'm not a like I said, I am not a bad Bob Labriola type who just knows everything. Dylan Smith has a good question here. Who has the most tackles in Steelers history?
James Ferrier?
If I had to guess, I would guess Jack Ham. That would be my guess. That would be my guess. If somebody else can I can pull it up and get the answer, but career leaders, defense. Let's pull this up here. Get an answer. Also tackles, man. That's a tough.
Yeah.
You only have so many. Yeah, and actually, it's not even. So in terms of solo tackles, you're right with James Ferrier. You're right with James Ferrier. So it is, no, Jack Ham is nowhere near the top of it.
Lawrence
Taylor. I just thought like the reason why I thought that was because like 70s running the football as often as they did, and like I would think Lambert up there too, but solo tackles, it is James Ferrier, but James Ferrier did play quite a while, and he was a tackling machine.
154 games.
Rod Woodson is 5th. Yeah. Like everybody thinks about Rod Woodson and his ability. Position. Yes, doing that from Slanex brings up a good point. Yep. Stats weren't really tracked well in the 70s. That's true. Yeah, and to be fair, like up until the mid 70s, it was a 14-game season instead of 16-game season. So Jane asks, what 2 quarterbacks left the Steelers and ended up in the Hall of Fame? Left the Steelers. Would that mean like we're with the Steelers and then signed with another team? That also might be predating me too.
Yeah, that's a tough one. It's like Jordan 390's got an answer.
Unitas and Dawson. There you go.
I do. Yeah, I wouldn't know. That one's out of my purview.
Oh yeah. So listen, there are going to be some people in here. Like, this is why you guys are literally called fans, like fanatics.
Yeah.
Gene says Len Dawson and Johnny Unitas. You guys probably know more when it comes to some of this stuff than I do. But yeah, well, I'm glad that you are you'll continue to learn things about Steelers history as you go,
exactly,
and everything like that. So there was another question here, because I remember this game very well as a kid. Name the backup DB who broke up Jim Harbaugh's Hail Mary that almost beat the Steelers in the 95 AFC Championship game. Who would have been back there? And it says backup DB. I'm trying to think, because that season, that's okay. So obviously it's a backup DB. So it's not, well, Rod Woodson didn't play in the game because he was still, he missed almost all of that season with a knee injury. Backup DBs weren't Carnell Lake or Willie Williams. Myron Bell is the best guess that I can have, honestly. If you have the answer to that, man. That's my guess, is Myron Bell. I don't remember 100% when it comes to that. I think Donovan says WW. It says Willie Williams. I think Willie Williams was, because I think like once Woodson went down in week 1, like Carnell Lake switched over to cornerback and Willie Williams took over the other side. So the two main guys on the outside in that defense were Carnell Lake and Willie Williams. That's Mark says Randy Fuller. Yeah, no, I would never guess that. Like, I watched that game as a kid. Like, I remember that game very, very well. I remember the final score is 20-16. The Hail Mary at the end with Jim Harbaugh, which is so funny because like anytime like a Harbaugh has come up,
yeah,
like even when John Harbaugh became the head coach of the Ravens, like I just immediately the Harbaugh name takes me back to that 95 AFC Championship game. So yeah, that's Mr. CJ Jr. asks, did Al Bundy get drafted by the Steelers? True or false?
I have no clue.
I would assume that this means Ed O'Neill, and I think the answer is true. That he actually either he was drafted or he was signed as an undrafted free agent and then cut, or just didn't make the team. So that's what my guess is. Snowman with a really good question here. How many touchdowns did Ben Roethlisberger have in his career? I don't know the exact number, but a lot.
I don't know the exact. That would have been my answer.
I would say
a lot.
I would say over 400. I think, if I'm not mistaken. Let me pull it up real quick.
Yeah.
Ben Roethlisberger.
418.
418. Okay, there we go. Yeah, 418 yards. He's like pretty much the leading passer in just about every category, especially with yards and touchdowns. And it's just because like they didn't throw the ball that often in the 70s, and when they started throwing the ball more often, that's when Terry Bradshaw had his best seasons.
Yeah.
Here's a really good question. Not necessarily trivia, but this is a good one just for fans. Now, I know the real answer to this question is just either. But would you rather take a Killer Bee championship or a TJ Watt championship?
So are we taking TJ Watt with Big Ben still in the lineup?
Could be both.
Because
TJ Watt was drafted in 17. I mean,
yeah,
like that 17 season, that was the 17 season to me, that was the year that I've said, because that was the year Shazier got injured. If I'm not mistaken. So that 17 season, that was the year that I thought that this team had the best chance to be a legitimate Super Bowl contender since the last time they made it, obviously, because that to me was when the offense with Ben and Bell and Brown and Bryant and all those guys it was just, the offense was as good as it gets in the NFL. And then Ryan Shazier was the he was an emerging, like almost defensive player of the year type. I think he would have been in the conversation. I don't think he would have won, but if he didn't get hurt, I think he would have been in that conversation at the end of the season of defensive player of the year. He was that good that year. And then he goes down with the injury. And then all of a sudden that second level of the defense is nothing. And they can't stop Leonard Fournette or Blake Bortles in the divisional round and lose to the Jaguars at home.
Yeah.
So Slanek says 18 was Shazier. I think it was 17. I'm pretty sure the 17 season was when Shazier got injured. Dylan asked a really good question. You guys playing college football? And I'm talking about, I think he's talking about the new EA Sports college football game that's coming out.
When it comes up, I'll probably boot up the PlayStation for a couple hours.
I am super stoked.
Yeah.
For everything looks so good, dude. It looks so good.
Those are the games I grew up on, so I gotta I gotta get back into it if I can find some time.
Yeah, absolutely. I think I now granted I'm in the process of like moving. I probably won't be able to play it until like shoot, man. It's like as soon as I get to Pittsburgh, it's like training camp starts.
Yeah.
And so it's like, when am I gonna have to? I'm gonna have to find time to play it somehow. I just don't know when I'm gonna find time. I'm gonna have to lose sleep in order to play it.
Yeah, and I mean, but I remember the days back in college when games came out where you're like, up until 3-4 in the morning. So I might have to pull one of those at some point. But we'll see. Dude, but I definitely want to get into it at some point.
William asks, Najee or Jalen? I keep trying to tell people to not do this Najee versus Jalen thing. Just appreciate the thunder and lightning while they got it.
Exactly.
But
I mean,
if you had to choose one, I guess gun to your head, you have to choose one. Who do you choose?
I think I'd choose Jalen, to be honest with you. I'm more of like a scat back type guy, and he can catch passes out of the backfield, and he can do a little bit of everything. I'd probably take Jalen at this point. I like him.
I would take Najee, and it's close because I think Najee can also be a very good receiving running back. He showed that at Alabama, and even as a rookie, when he has even an average quarterback, I think he could catch a lot of passes and be a legitimate receiving threat. And the one thing about Najee, and I kind of noticed this, and I think everybody else notices it, is it seems like he does play, especially earlier on in the season, as if he's pacing himself for the season. And that can kind of hurt you. Granted, availability is very important. Like being on the football field.
Availability is
the best ability is availability. To go back to the Tomlinisms we were talking about yesterday. But it just seems like at times, not that the effort is less than 100%, but that he's not quite at that Najee monster level. And then once they start getting down the stretch into those cold days in December, that's whenever he becomes this monster. And so that to me is kind of maybe I would like to see that version of Najee all season long. The one thing about Jalen, and maybe he can prove me wrong, maybe he's given the chance to prove me wrong, is I love everything else about him. I love the way he runs. I love the way he hits the hole. I love the way he can catch the passes out of the backfield. His balance when he absorbs contact, it's just so good. It's what if he is this good because of the role that he's in? Like what happens if he becomes a bell cow in some other offense or even in this offense and he's going to touch the ball 250 to 300 times?
Well, that's why I think, a couple of the guys hit it on it in the comments is they need each other. I think they're better as a dual backfield. And I think that's why you see a lot of teams kind of going to it. Like there's not a lot of teams in the NFL anymore that are like just one guy gets all the carries. They split the carries a lot. And, I think that's what makes them both so special is that they can kind of a little bit, they're different in certain ways, but they can kind of, you're not going to give away anything if Jalen's in the game or if Najee's in the game. So I think they need each other.
I agree with that. And I think when you have an offensive coordinator that can better disguise plays where it's not, hey, when Najee's on the field, 52% of the time we run the ball, and when Jalen's on the field, only 35% of the time we run the ball. Like, let's get a little bit better with that. Let's not telegraph things. But yeah, I think that they are, and I think that's one of the reasons why I keep telling, like, because it gets really, it got really bad at one point during the season where, because I think it was whenever Najee had a couple of like rough weeks and Jalen was like really like playing really well. I think like the game in Cleveland where Jalen had the long touchdown run, and that was the game ended up being Matt Canada's last game. And it was around that time, like the Najee versus Jalen debate it caught fire.
Yeah.
And everybody was like, you're either team Najee or team Jalen. And a lot of people were like jumping ship and going over to the team Jalen side. And I kept telling people, like, listen, first off, both guys are still good running backs. Let's not try to make Najee some sort of, I saw something today. It was like ESPN's rankings of like running back, receiver, and tight end talent. Like just taking the talent level of those like skill positions on offense and ranking them. The Steelers are ranked 27th. I'm like, the receiver room is thin. I get that. But they have one of the best running back rooms in the league. And Pat Freiermuth is
solid.
I think a very good tight end.
Yeah.
So I'm like, 27th seems a little low, especially when you have probably, I would say, bare minimum top 3 running back duos in the league. Like to me, that seemed a little unfair. And the person was like describing it as like Najee's just kind of been middling around for like 3 seasons. I'm like, dude has 3,000-yard seasons. Like that's not middling around. That's production. You can argue efficiency. Nobody's going to argue efficiency. 3.9 yards per carry is not going to get it done in terms of like, can we call him a top 10 running back? No, probably not, because he probably needs to be a little bit better with his efficiency. But in terms of production, it's not even a question.
Yeah.
So I think it's to your point. Yes, they need each other. They're best whenever they're feeding off of each other. They find a good way to deploy them both. I think it's a great thing for the Steelers to have, and it doesn't have to be you have to have one or the other.
Yeah, there shouldn't be divisiveness. It should be, these two guys are better as a tandem, so let's just roll. Let's get behind both of them.
Yeah, Cody understands. Like I understand this is like not giving them respect until they show something. I get that, and there's questions. What's Russell Wilson going to look like? What's Justin Fields going to look like? Legitimate questions there. Questions about the offense, like, yes, better offensive coordinator, but is it the right fit? Do they have the right personnel to fit what Arthur Smith is wanting to do? How's the offensive line look? Receivers really thin, but when it comes to that running back duo, I'm like, one of 2 teams had 2 backs that each got 1,000 yards from scrimmage, and the Steelers were one of them. So I don't think you could really argue like running back duos. So Cody brings up a good one. Bus and Willie were the reason why they won that Super Bowl. A lot of sacrifice. Like you talk about thunder and lightning. There was thunder and lightning that year too. A lot of lightning with Willie Parker, but every now and then when they needed the thunder, Jerome Bettis could provide it. And the game to me that really stood out as like that exclamation point for Jerome in that season was the Bears game. Had the snow tires on against the Bears and ran over Brian Urlacher. That highlight gets played frequently. All righty. So I think we're gonna go ahead and wrap it up. We're almost 44 minutes into it. So Greg, you feeling better about your Steelers history?
I'm feeling good. It's just, it's the start of studying to get ready for training camp and all that stuff, and making sure I'm up on everything. So this was a good continuation of everything I've been doing since I started. But it was it was cool to like deep dive and figure things out that I didn't know before. So
was there any stat that you found when you were like studying and preparing that I didn't ask about that still fascinated you? It doesn't have to be a stat, just any piece of information.
The one thing that stood out the most to me that I didn't know before was the Hall of Famers in the 74 draft. That was the one thing that stood out to me the most. I was kind of going back through all the drafts and everything. And man, Art Rooney Jr., he must have been a G back in the day, because he had there was like about, I think 8 or 9, 10 Hall of Famers in a 6 or 7 year span or something like that in the draft. I mean, crazy. And that was one thing that stood out the most, just their ability to kind of bring in talent during that stretch, which led to, what they were able to do for that six-year stretch.
Yeah. It was very, very impressive. And like I saw a reason, or I saw a ranking of like the greatest dynasties of all time. And the one that was listed first was the Patriots, because it was like 01 to 2018. I'm like, I don't even know if I would count that as one dynasty. It almost felt like two different dynasties. Like, yes, they were like, you got talking like back-to-back decades in which they won 3 Super Bowls, and that's great. But the 01 to 04 Patriots and then the like 15 to 18 Patriots, or whatever years it was, were two completely different teams. The only thing that really had in common was Bill Belichick and Tom Brady, but just about everything else about the team was different. And so, and Cody says, like, in terms of a 6-year period, I'd even argue, say 8-year period, 4 and 6 years is the best. And I would say 8-year period, because they also made it to the AFC Championship 2 other years. So in an 8-year span, they at least made it to at least the AFC Championship in 6 of 8 seasons.
Yeah.
Won the AFC Championship 4 times, and then went on to win the Super Bowl each time. So yeah, I think there was 1 year that was kind of like a meh year, but even a meh year was still a playoff year. They didn't win the division. Like, oh shucks. 7 of 8 years they won the division. 6 of those years they went to at least the conference championship, and then 4 of those years they went to the Super Bowl and won. Like, to me, that's, and then when you count the number of Hall of Famers on both sides of the ball,
it's crazy.
Yeah. Who is your all-time favorite Bill? Curious.
Recency bias, Josh Allen is the one that comes to mind, just because, he's led him to the success he has, but like growing up back in the day, like when my grandpa had season tickets and, I was going to games as a kid and everything, like, Jim Kelly, Bruce Smith, Andre Reed was huge to me. Like, I love Andre Reed. But one of those 4 back in the day, but like, if we're talking like a middle tier, like the bad years of the Bills when I was growing up, like JP Lossman was always fun to watch, because he was kind of
Lossman.
He was kind of a gunslinger, and he just threw the ball all over the field.
We're getting to some bad years for the Bills, man.
Really bad years. Like Nate Clements was fun to watch. London Fletcher was there for a couple years.
London Fletcher was good.
Yeah, he was very good. He was very good. So there's a bunch of guys that
you got some Steelers fans who were giving Thurman Thomas some
Thurman Thomas. Yeah, Thurman Thomas. I mean, he's one that's still around and everything like that. He was good back in the day. I mean, he was a big piece of them going to 4 Super Bowls. But yeah, I can't name one, just because, I mean, growing up, it was that was the lifestyle for the most part.
Yeah. I gotta be honest with you. I've covered 1 game in Orchard Park, and that was my least favorite stadium getting to that season.
Well, all right. So when did you go? Like, what time of the year was it?
It was the 22 season.
Okay.
So it was a couple of years ago. It was like week 4, week 5. It was like early October, I think.
Was it? It was their home opener. Was it the year that Deontay Johnson caught that he like toe tapped in the?
No. That was the year before. That was the year before. That game was when TJ Watt made Josh Allen his little.
Yes. Yeah.
There's not a word I'm going to say on here. But no, that was the TJ Watt game. No, the next year was Josh Allen had his way with the defense because TJ Watt was injured and the secondary, not even Minka, could get it figured out. Josh Allen just threw it all over them. No, it was a very, very ugly game, but at least from the Steelers' perspective, it was ugly. But I'm just saying, like, getting to the stadium, like, Philly's bad. I don't enjoy going. Like, we're gonna go to Philly this year, and if you make that trip with us, you'll understand. I don't like going to Philly for a number of reasons. That's one of them. But going to Orchard Park, like we got there 3 hours before kickoff.
Yeah, it gets jam packed around the stadium.
Yeah.
Like if you get there anywhere, when I used to go, I used to get there like probably 4 or 5 hours ahead of the game.
Yeah. Like
Just
you almost
because
have
you
to.
you deal with traffic and everything like that. And
Yeah.
but like it gets crazy. But it's the stadium just kind of pops up out of nowhere. It's in like the the middle of the
Yes.
community. It's middle of the neighborhood. So I've always thought that was pretty cool. I've never seen that anywhere else.
Yeah, tell you right now, there's one person who does not think it's cool, and that is our boss. He does not think it's cool at all.
I'm not surprised by that. I'm not surprised.
I can tell you right now, I agree with him. I was not a fan. We're just sitting there like sitting still. I'm like, man, are we ever gonna get to the stadium? Like, this is crazy.
The traffic is bad.
The atmosphere is great.
Bad.
Like once you get there and you get parked, like being in the atmosphere, it's fantastic. But just getting to the media parking alone, it was just wow.
It's bad. It gets bad. That's why I've always been like, all right, we got to get there early. We got to get way ahead of the traffic once the lots open. But it's a mess when you get there like pretty close to the game time, or like 2 or 3 hours when everyone's trying to get there. It's bad. Yeah. So I can agree with you there.
All right, man. Well, okay, now we're gonna really wrap up the show. Oh no, sorry, I can't ignore this question. Did you eat Flutie Flakes?
All right, give me 1 second here because I got to show you something.
Greg's got some memorabilia for us. Now, granted, like this is a Steelers show, but I could not ignore this.
So my mom is getting ready to move, and she was cleaning stuff out, and she and I was like, I'm taking that with me. Like that's you got to do it. So yeah,
that is awesome. I got like Steelers memorabilia and stuff like behind me, and I got some like but Cody says throw that away.
I threw away the Flutie Flakes. I threw away the flakes, kept the box.
That is, dude, I would have, like, if I had the ability to have that, I would have that. And I've never been a Bills fan. So no, but that's awesome. That really is.
I had to keep it. It was that I was like, no, we're not throwing that away.
No, that's cool. I'll show you one piece of Steelers memorabilia that I have. Now, granted, this was I don't know if this was given out to fans, but it was given to members of the media for it. I got it right over here. Armpit in the camera. But this was a I don't know why there's one of my kids' stars on it. All right, there we go. A replica of the ticket.
There you go.
To the game in which the Immaculate Reception happened.
That's pretty cool.
And it's got like a little description of it on the back. It will be whenever I get my I've had some people ask, like, are you gonna have the same backdrop and everything like that after you move? It'll look a little bit different, but I'll have some sort of Steelers something or other. There's the house that I got already has a bar in the basement. And I've already got ideas of like, okay, what all am I going to do? And so I have a feeling I'm going to incorporate something. I don't know. I'll figure it out. Yeah. But this was pretty cool. I was like, dude, this is really, really good for just a little like media knickknack.
Right. My wife grew up a Steelers fan. Before she left for work today, she was like, you want one of my terrible towels so you can throw it up in the background or something like that? I was like, yeah, at some point it's probably a good idea.
Well, at least Greg has a Steelers fan in the family. That'll make some people feel better. All righty. Well, we're gonna wrap this up. Thank you guys for joining us today. It's been a really fun 200th episode of the show. It's you guys are awesome. I love the interaction we get every single time, every single day. 2 more shows this week, and then, like I said, we're doing a week kind of hiatus while I do All-Star stuff. Again, not gonna throw Greg to the wolves here and make him do this by himself for a little bit. But whenever we get back, it's going to be hitting the ground running with training camp. Players report 2 weeks from today. 2 weeks from today, players report. So exciting times, man. We're almost there. Almost there. All righty, guys. Thank you so much. Catch you guys on the flippity flip. See you later.
See you later, guys.